Can we approach?
Yeah.
I'm waiting on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, could you just go back to the jury room for about 2 minutes? And while you're back there, please don't discuss the case. Don't talk to each other about anything, but use your cell phones or any electronic devices to look up anything about the case. Thank you very much. Mr. Blaine, when you're finished with this witness, while he's still up the stand, just ask to approach again. I don't want to make it seem like something's wrong. If I tell the jury they have to go back out again immediately, you know, I'd like them to think maybe we're doing some other kind of discussion, and I'll excuse them again, and then you can leave. Okay, the next one.
Mrs. Saroyan.
I want to, that's what I'm telling
He's already on the way. Yeah, he's already closed. Can you explain to them that also, I want to, on the right, you not say that you're in custody.
Okay.
Do you understand that? And also, you're going to wait there at the end, and they'll send the jury out, and then you'll be able to walk off.
Okay.
Yes. This was Nancy's spelling.
Actually, can I have him spell?
Sure.
It's
How do you spell your last name?
Saroyan.
And then
It's pronounced Saroyan.
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 I'm killing you. Saroyan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thanks. Your Honor, this witness was the subject of one of the state's motions in limine. I know the court is going to maintain its ruling. I'm just, for the appellate purposes, preserving my objections.
Okay, why don't you... Well, we're about to have the jury come in, so...
I'm just preserving the objections that were set forth in the written motion in limine that were previously filed.
And also, what's your first name? Can you spell that for the court?
Hovannes.
Jury entering.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Could you please...
Yeah, hold on, sir. Let me have the clerk swear the witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Hovannes Saroyan.
And how old are you, Mr. Ryan?
Currently 25 years old.
And what type of work are you usually engaged in?
I'm a videographer.
Do you know James Peoples, or did you know him? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
And for how many years did you know him?
6 years.
Would you say you're a friend, or how would you consider yourself?
Associates.
But you knew him for 6 years?
Yes, sir.
Were you with Mr. Peoples just prior to the shooting in this case where he was killed?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the jury how you came in contact with him that day and where you went? Start with that.
We was at 106 Southwest 8th Avenue in Delray Beach, Florida.
And what is that?
That's a residence. It belongs to Andre Fashaw.
And how long were you there?
He was there for like 5. We'd be there at 5 o'clock.
And where'd you go after that?
We went to Nippers.
And where's Nippers?
It's a bar in Boca Raton, Florida.
And what did you do at the bar?
We drank, and then he told me some things.
Okay, well, I want to get into what he told you. First of all, did he make a request of you?
Yes, sir.
And what did he want from you?
He asked if I could locate a firearm.
And did you give him a firearm?
No, sir.
Did he make any statements regarding issues that he had with anyone?
Yes, sir.
And what did he say?
He said he was on the verge of spazzing out. He felt like he was going to kill somebody.
And this was at Nippers?
Yes, sir.
And how long were you at Nippers for?
For around like an hour.
What car was he driving, do you remember?
It was a blue Honda Civic.
And how did you guys leave together, or how did that?
Yes, sir. We left together. He dropped me off on Southwest 9th Avenue, which is a block away from Southwest 8th Avenue, the residence that we currently met at.
Did he mention anything about issues with someone and a baby mama or female?
Yes, sir. He said that he was having issues with the girl that he was having sexual intercourse with that was pregnated.
And he never mentioned, though, Delinord Dumercy by name, is that correct?
No, sir.
And Mr. Saroyan, have you ever been convicted of a felony before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many times?
3 times.
Let's get out of the moment.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Close it in. Mr. Black.
Good afternoon, Mr. Saroyan.
Good afternoon.
And I'm sorry, I might butcher your name. I apologize. So let me ask you this. You knew James Peoples, correct?
That's correct.
And you know him for about 6 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you guys go to high school together?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to middle school together?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so just high school.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were with him on December 8th, 2016, right?
No, ma'am.
No.
I think it was December 6th.
Were you with him the night he got shot and killed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if I told you that was December 8th, 2016, would that be the correct night?
That's the correct night, then. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Whatever night he got shot, you were with him, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were with him and up until about 7:40 p.m., right?
Yes, ma'am.
And at Nippers, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And while he was at Nippers, he told you that he thinks that someone was messing around with his baby mama, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And he specifically said his baby mama, right?
It's the girl that he was having sexual intercourse with.
What did he refer to her as?
His girlfriend.
So he said his girlfriend now.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall giving a deposition in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall giving a deposition on January 31st, 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were present,
Yes, ma'am.
and the defense attorney was present,
Yes, ma'am.
and there was a prosecutor present, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in that deposition, you swore to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, page 30, lines 3 and on. And in that deposition, you specifically said, he said he was on the verge of spazzing out. He said he thinks this fuck nigga is sleeping with his baby mama. That's what you said, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it wasn't his girlfriend. He specifically said his baby mama.
It was the girl that he was having sexual intercourse with. In my mind, I thought that he was talking about his baby mama because the girl was pregnant.
Okay. So what words did he specifically use?
His baby mama.
Okay. So he said his baby mama, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you knew that he was sleeping with a girl that was pregnant, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you assumed that was the same person, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So he said, somebody's messing with my baby mama, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are the one who thought that was the girl he was currently with.
Yes, ma'am. But I had great reason to believe that.
Okay. But specifically, he used the words baby mama that night, right?
But I also had great reason to believe that he was talking about the girl with the blue Honda
Okay,
Civic.
just listen to my question and answer it. Yes or no? He specifically said his baby mama, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said before that he asked you for a gun that night, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you didn't give him a gun.
No, ma'am.
And again, you left him at 7:40 p.m.?
That's when we left Nippers, ma'am.
Okay. How long did it take for you to get home?
30 minutes.
Okay.
Approximately.
So you were with him maybe till about 8:10 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't give him a gun in any of that time, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So he didn't have a gun that you know of that night?
That I know of? No, ma'am.
Okay. And you are a 3-time convicted felon, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further.
Peter Rick?
Yes, sir. And what were the great reasons that you had to believe that it was the for lack of a better term, you're saying pregnant girl?
Judge, I'm going to object. Can we approach?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you to go back in the jury room for just a couple of minutes again? While you're back there, please don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Thank you very much. Okay, so Brian, do you want to ask the question again?
Actually, I was asking.
I'm sorry, you're right.
What was and the jury's out of the room,
Yes.
just for the record. Mr. Saroyan, what was the great reason you had to believe that the female he was talking about was a pregnant female?
Because that's all he would talk about was her. He was in her car for like the last week. He drove me to Burger King one time with the car. He never brought his baby mama around. He did bring his daughter around, but that's about it.
Okay, so that's the answer. Okay.
I think it's hearsay number one, as he always talked about her, but...
Well, it's not the truth of it. It's why he believed it was, why he had great reason to believe that he was talking about it. That's his reason.
Well, it's being offered in evidence to prove the truth of the matter.
Well, not necessarily. It's to show, the state
The
asked
reason he knew or he thought that was the girl was because of what what Mr. Peoples was telling him about the girl.
Yeah, but,
So, that's hearsay.
but the problem though is that the state can get up in closing argument and argue, oh, we're just talking about so. Well, actually, he believed in his testimony that he's talking about the Ms. McCrae, and he bases that on the fact that he was told constantly, that Mr. Peoples constantly talking about her. So,
Well,
why isn't that?
I'm really a little bit lost here at why this is such a big issue, whether it's girlfriend or baby mama or...
I don't know. Honestly, we're probably
I think you all are
overthinking.
making a mountain out of a molehill. And why this has become an issue is beyond me. But
I think it's mystical.
are you going to ask this question? Why?
And why he had great reason to believe it was her. And so what if he limited it that it's who Mr. Peoples had talked about her and he'd been in the car? I don't know, I guess.
That's still hearsay.
Right.
He could say that, well, how does he know that's her car?
Right.
Well, it's definitely hearsay, that I agree with.
Right.
But I believe that it's not coming in for the truth of the matter asserted that it actually was her. It's coming in to show why he believed it wasn't.
It's coming to show that she's,
Right,
It's clearly being used to prove the truth of the matter, so.
It's coming in because the state asked him a question, he gave an answer.
Right.
And now I'm allowed to show why, because he wasn't allowed to finish the,
You're not allowed to go beyond what the rules of evidence allow to try to show the answer. I mean,
well, I believe it's not coming in for truth of matter, it's hearsay, but it's not proving that it's her, it's proving what he believed and why. It's come in and show why he believed it's her. It's for, it's the impact.
I think that's still hearsay. But let me ask you this. There was some testimony about the car, and I don't know if that would be something you want to get into. I don't know if he saw, I don't know if he knows that that's her car, and if he's seen him drive it, or...
Well, you just said he'd never seen her drive it before, so.
I know that's her car though,
Because
How do you know it's her car?
because he told me that was her car.
I mean, it's
Not only
definitely-
that, he told me that he had to drop me off to pick her up at 10 o'clock from work.
Okay, again...
And then,
Well, that I would never ask.
No, I understand.
But just sitting here listening to the cross, I thought, well, I do want to follow up and ask him why he had great reason to believe that
Again,
it was her.
he's going to be testifying to hearsay information, so I'm not going to permit that.
But why then would the officer be allowed to testify to hearsay about, let me just fit the...
I haven't heard an exception to the hearsay rule. I think it's clearly hearsay. I don't see any exception to the hearsay rule.
Well, my only exception would be it's not coming in for truth of matter asserted. In other words, to prove it
Well, so
was...
you're saying it's not even hearsay.
Well, it's
It's
out of
not
court
being used to
statement.
prove the truth of the matter asserted. It's
Right.
not hearsay.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying.
But from what I've heard, it sounds like it is being used to prove the truth of the matter asserted. It's being used to show what Mr. Peoples told him is the truth. In other words, that the car or that person who, I guess, drives that car is his baby mama or girlfriend. So, I mean, baby mama, I guess is the word we used. So, it's being used to show that's his baby mama. I mean, what else would you be using it for? You're going to be saying, see, that was obviously his baby mama. That's what he told him.
Okay, well, I made my record.
Okay.
That's my position.
All right. Okay, let's bring the jury back in.
Does Mr. Fleischman have any other questions? Because I know that we'll have to send the jury
hang
out.
on. Jack, Mr. Fleischman, did you want to ask any other questions? Send them back out again right away.
Right.
I just want to emphasize on behalf of Mr. Dumercy, part of the reason we want to ask him is the state could stand up in closing and say that he was not talking about Darnisha. And this witness would be able to say that based on his conversations with Peoples, that he was talking about Darnisha as the, as
Based on the
baby mama.
totality of the circumstances and all the testimony we've heard, who else could he possibly have been talking about? I mean, I can't imagine if the state makes that argument, the jury taking them seriously.
He has a mother, his kid, his mother.
Okay, that's it.
I mean, so far, I don't think anything's been brought in about his child. I've not heard anything about the daughter yet. This is the first I heard about it.
Ms. McCrae testified to one of the text messages. It starts out with Judeline said that you're with James. She testified that Judeline is the mother of Mr. Peoples'
Right, but nothing about the daughter.
Right, that's correct.
Just that Mr. Peoples
Has a child.
had a child with Judeline.
Well,
But I can represent that the state is not going to get up in closing argument and make that argument.
okay.
So it becomes a moot point if they're not going to argue that.
All right, they've already said on the record they're not going to make that argument, so. Okay, so are you finished with your redirect? Because I'm going to let him go now, so I don't have to excuse the jury again. Okay, all right, so let's take him back out. Who would you like to call next, Mr. Fletcher?
Do you want to call for the interpreter?
Yeah, you might want to.
Yeah,
We can
we'll
call
can do it. And I can do Mr. Nieves next, and then pass it. Okay, but can we confine what I'm allowed to do with Mr. Nieves?
Well,
Yeah, just again, so. I should say define what I'm, like, I mean, I think based on, if I can almost re-argue this issue again, is based on the state's cross-examination of the defendant and their implications that he was less than truthful in his statements to law enforcement and that he may have fabricated it, that I should be allowed to get into the fact that he told Nieves that he had been shot at.
Mr. Patfield.
Your Honor, again, the state's position is that the cross-examination was not geared towards whether or not the statement was untruthful, but it was geared towards whether the entire event occurred or not. And because a prior consistent statement has to occur at a time before the motive to fabricate could take place, the motive to fabricate takes place because, or I'm sorry, the event in which the statement would have to occur before would be basically the disintegration of the relationship between Ms. McCrae and the defendant. So it's not a true prior consistent statement, and the actual statement to law enforcement was not at issue. The event in and of itself is what's being questioned by the state.
Well, wait, you are, I think the argument is that you're inferring he's lying about reporting the shooting, lying about the whole shooting incident.
Correct.
And that he told the police, I guess, that he was shot at, right?
That's correct.
And so, I mean,
I don't see how
in the cross-exam, I mean, the tone of the cross, the questions, it seems like you are really trying to tear apart his credibility. And this is being used to show that he's told other people about this, not just the police.
And before he went in to even talk to the
Right.
police, I don't see how that's not admissible under these
I'm going to
circumstances.
find it is admissible. I'm going to submit it.
Okay, so I'll call Nieves first.
You want to bring the jury up before we
Yeah.
bring them in? Are we waiting for the interpreter for this?
No, this one doesn't need an interpreter, so let's go over there.
Jury hearing.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This question is called-
So your next witness is Mr. Nieves.
Please, what the clerk did raise.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Aaron. Good afternoon. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
William Lee Nieves III, friend of Dell's,
And how old are you?
28.
And let me start off with how you know Mr. Dumercy.
We started off as co-workers and became friends and stayed friends after that.
And where were you co-workers at?
Schuleberger in Delray Beach.
How long did Mr. Dumercy work at Schuleberger's?
A couple months.
And did there come a time that he lived at your home?
Yes, for about a month and a little more than before the incident.
You were saying before the shooting at the gas station?
Yes.
Did he tell you about threats he had been receiving?
Yeah. Throughout the course of it, there was like jumping threats and then a shooting and stuff like that.
I want to ask you specifically about the shooting. Did he tell you about a shooting that had taken place?
Yeah, he had called me one night. He said he'd been by the park, either going by it or had stopped at it or something like that. And while sitting there, he had gotten shot at, but it was too dark to determine exactly what had happened. And I know it was at night because I work night shifts, so it would have been post 10 or 11 o'clock at night. He would have been able to call me.
And did there come a time that he left work?
Yeah, shortly before the incident.
And did he ever tell you about a phone call he had received from the person threatening him?
Yeah, I don't know I can't remember if they had called him or the job, but he had called whoever it was had found out that he had been working there particularly, so he had left the job.
And that's the last time you saw him?
Yeah, well, last time I seen him was right after he left my house, which was shortly after that.
Judge, could I have one moment?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Good afternoon, Mr. Nieves.
After you say, been here for a while.
That's all right. You're friends with Delinord Dumercy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How long do you know him?
Now a couple of years, but I knew him for about half a year at the time.
Because he worked with you at Schuleberger, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you were his manager, correct?
Yes.
So he would work with you pretty closely, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did he quit Schuleberger?
A few weeks before everything had happened.
You mean everything happened like as in the shooting?
The shooting, yeah, that's the only incident.
Okay. So probably the end of November is when he quit?
Yeah.
And that was when he was living with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said that he told you about getting shot at a park, right?
Yeah, he had called me, I can't remember specifically when, but he had called me one night about it.
Did he call you, when do you remember him calling you?
Around 10 or 11 would be my guess, because the only time he'd be able to get a hold of me is off shift. And I worked at nights, and usually I would get out about 10 or 11.
Do you remember what date it was?
I do not.
Was it the date of the shooting?
No.
So
it was prior to that. It was a few weeks, I think.
No, I'm sorry. I mean the date that he got shot at. Did he call you that night?
Yeah, he had
Okay.
called me that night. It was right after it.
So if it was November 30th, he would have called you then November 30th, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your phone number back then?
I don't know.
You have the same number that you had now?
No, it's not. It's from like 2 numbers ago. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Was it a 561 number?
Yes.
And you testified that he called you around maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock at night that night?
Yeah.
Okay. And he told you that he was shot at, right?
Yeah.
And he told you it was nighttime, right?
And it was nighttime. He says it was hard for him to determine what had happened because it was nighttime.
And he told you he didn't see who shot him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he wasn't able to see because it was nighttime, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that he told you that he was receiving some threats, correct?
Yeah, there are various kinds of threats from I'm gonna beat you up to whatever. But yeah, over the course of 2 months or so that I know him, there was an escalation in his relationship and threats were made, yeah.
Okay. And that was a relationship with Miss McCrae, correct?
Yes.
The woman who was pregnant with his child, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did he say who the threats were coming from?
The boyfriend at the time.
The boyfriend of Miss McCrae?
Yeah.
Okay. Did Mr. Dumercy ever tell you that he was actually threatening Mr. Peoples?
No, he'd say he gotten in like arguments with him, but not that he'd been threatening him.
Okay. Did he ever tell you that he was sending texts to Miss McCrae saying he wanted to put a bullet in Mr. Peoples' head?
No.
And that he wanted to kill Mr. Peoples?
No.
And that he was actually sending addresses on where Mr. Peoples could meet him?
No.
He didn't tell you any of that, right?
No.
He just told you that he was being threatened, right?
Yes.
And you still talk to Mr. Dumercy every once in a while, right?
Occasionally, when we have an opportunity to.
Okay. So you're still friends, right?
Yes.
And you don't want to see him go to prison, right?
Nope.
You don't want to see him convicted of murder, right?
No.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
Okay, very good.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much for your step. Next witness.
So we need the interpreter. Let me see if the other person.
Oh, good, okay.
No, the interpreter's here. Miss Tassy.
Raise your hand.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Interpreter, be sworn in, isn't
Oh, Madam Interpreter, could you raise your right hand for me?
Yes, Judge.
Do you solemnly swear that you will translate from Creole to English and English to Creole to the best of your ability?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ready? Please state, good afternoon, please state your full name.
I can't hear. Okay. Okay, I'm ready.
Good afternoon, please state your full name.
Rosemelia Tassy.
Rosemelia Tassy.
And Ms. Tassie, how are you related to Delinord Dumercy?
C'est premier petit garçon.
He is my son, my first son.
And Ms. Tassie, you and I speak English. You do speak English, but your first language is Creole, is that correct?
Oui.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to answer all the questions in Creole, and I will speak through the interpreter.
Oui.
Yes.
Okay. And you'll let me know if you need a question repeated.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let me start off with what type of work you do.
C'est un CNA.
I'm a CNA.
How long have you done that for?
10 ans.
10 years.
And are you married?
Oui.
Yes.
And do you have other children besides Delinord?
Oui.
Yes.
And how many kids do you have?
3.
Where do you live?
Nord-Est 3e Avenue, Delray Beach, Florida.
Northeast 3rd Avenue, Delray Beach, Florida.
And how long have you lived there?
8 ans.
8 years.
I want to ask you some questions about an incident at your house prior to the shooting at the gas station.
Okay.
Okay.
And now, did there come a time that a person you did not know came to your house?
Oui.
Yes.
And can you tell the jury what happened?
Un jour, moi, je travaille.
One day I came from work.
2016.
2016.
Dans matin, je travaille.
In the morning I went to work.
Dans l'après-midi, je travaille.
in the afternoon when I came from work.
And I will, excuse me, I want to ask her, but how much time preceded, how soon prior to the shooting at the gas station did this occur?
Combien de temps avant l'incident qui est fait dans la station gaz là qui est fait là? Can you repeat that question
Yes.
for me?
Was it a week, 2 weeks, a month? How long prior, before the shooting, did what you're about to testify occur?
A week before that.
Okay. Tell the jury what happened.
When I came from work, and I sat in the living room of my home,
m'a dit bon Dieu merci parce qu'elle te fait passer une bonne journée.
I'm telling God thank you that I had a good day.
Et puis m'entendais porte là frapper.
And I heard someone knock on the door.
And did you, was anyone else home at the time?
Est-ce que tu as l'autre monde qui était là dans les salles?
M'était un petit m'était passé sur l'école, il était dans le shower là ben.
I had a child that I had picked up from school. They were in the shower they were in the shower.
Did you answer the front door?
Est-ce que tu répondais et voilà porte là ou tu ouvert porte là?
So m'était gardé dans window.
So I stood at the window.
And what happened next?
Et qui s'est passé après ça?
Moi c'est un druide et me connais m'pas gen zami comme ça.
I saw someone with dreads, and I know that I don't have any friends that look like that.
Was it a black male, black female? What describe it?
C'est un monsieur noir.
It was a black man.
What happened next?
Et qui s'est passé après ça?
So m'pas connais lui. So m'dit bon Dieu m'va l'ouvrir porte là mais.
So I don't know him, so I said, God, I'm going to open the door. But I don't know who this is. I'm going to open the door.
Did you open the door?
Est-ce que tu as ouvert porte là?
Oui, j'ai ouvert porte là.
Yes, I opened the door.
And what happened next?
Et qui s'est passé après ça?
Les ouvert porte là.
When I opened the door,
et puis il dit hi.
And he said hi.
Dit hi too.
And I said hi also.
Et puis il m'a dit code Delinord.
And he asked me, where's Delinord? So I said, Delinord was not there.
What happened next?
Et qui s'est passé après ça?
Il m'a demandé deuxième fois côté Delinord.
He asked me a second time, where's Delinord?
Pour moi-même, je pense que c'est quelques amis Delinord. Je me dis, vous connaissez mon va arrêter là quand moi encore.
I thought this was Delinord's friend, so I told him, you know that your friend doesn't live here anymore.
What happened next?
Et puis, là, il dit ça, il dit, you sure, mom? Ou quoi ça, maman?
And when he said that, he said, are you sure, mom? Is that correct, mom?
Yes.
And what happened next?
Et puis, il vire, et puis, tant que j'en vire, il fâché.
Then he turned, and then it seems like the way he turned to leave, he was upset.
So, il était un passager, l'autre monde n'a pas conduit machine là, et puis.
He was a passenger, and another person was driving the car, and then.
L'autre monde n'a pas descendu machine là, c'est lui qui descend.
The other person did not get out of the car. He was the only one that got out of the car.
And then did they leave?
Et est-ce qu'il était quitté à la descente?
Oui, moi, je monte machine, après ça me fait mes portes là, même toujours regarder dans le window.
After that, I closed the door, but I stayed at the window and was watching.
Et puis moi, machine là, dérapé, ils parlaient, et puis là,
and I saw them take off. I saw them talk, and then they left.
Okay. That's all I have.
C'est ça, c'est mon dernier. Est-ce que vous avez des questions?
Good afternoon, Ms. Tassy.
Good afternoon.
When the man with dreads came to your house, you thought he was a friend of your son's, correct?
I believed it was his friend because I don't know him. I don't know who that was.
But you believed it was his friend, correct?
Yes, because I believed that was his friend because he came to ask for him. So I believed it was his friend.
And you told your son that, correct?
But he
wasn't home. I had already left the house.
And
I called. I called him the first time and he did not answer the phone. The second time I called, he answered the phone. I said, Delinord, I see that you have a man with braided hair that came to my door, and I said, please, Delinord, please don't let this man come to my house again.
Okay.
Because the way he was upset at me, I did not agree with that. I did not like that.
Okay. Mr. Dumercy is your son, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And he's your oldest son, right?
Yes.
And you love your son, correct?
Yes.
And you don't want to see him go to prison, right?
Because he's a child that even the school doesn't even call to tell me that he's misbehaving, not even one day.
Okay, ma'am, you don't want to see him go to prison, correct?
No. No.
And you don't want to see him convicted of murder, correct?
No. No.
Nothing further.
Judge, can we approach? Okay, Ms. Tassy, were you able to identify a photograph of the person that came to your home after the shooting?
The person that came to my home. Can you ask that question again, please?
Were you able to identify who the person was that came to your home after the shooting at the gas station?
I had identified him. It was after that.
That's what I'm asking.
That same day, I was weak. I could not stand.
So after
that, I called my son that is 12 years old, and I told him. And he said, Mommy, I see the person's picture. He told me that the same day, but I told him that day that I was not ready to look at.
And this is just for clarification, please. But this is the day that Delinord shot at the gas station.
Yes.
So what happened next with your son?
Après ça,
after that, when I came to my senses, I told my son, I would like to look at that picture now. So then he showed me the picture. When I saw the picture, I started screaming. And then I felt like I was going to be weak again. My child asked me, Mommy, what's wrong with you? And he grabbed me.
Okay, well, we need to ask her specifically. The picture that you were shown, that was of the person that Delinord shot. Start with that, please.
Oui, c'est ça, c'est ça fait
that's why. And that's why I was yelling.
And is that the person that came to your house?
Oui.
Yes.
That
was who came to my home.
That's
when I told the kids that this is the guy that came to my home.
Okay, that's all I have now.
Please, Ms. Tassy, your son showed you that photograph 3 days later, correct?
Yes.
And that was after your son had already shot that person, correct?
Oui.
Yes.
And that was after your son had already killed that person, correct?
Ça c'est après petit toi t'es déjà tiré mon là. Est-ce que ça correct?
Oui.
Yes.
And the man in the picture had dreads, correct?
Et dans photo il était gain dread. Est-ce que ça correct?
Oui.
Yes.
And you were very upset around this time, correct?
Vraiment pas content dans les ça. Est-ce que ça correct?
Oui.
Yes.
Parce que moi, tant que Jean-Bagay la fête là, il t'a cherché Delinord. S'il te joint devant, il a qu'un tout été, s'il te font action comme ça, devant.
Because if he had done this in front of me, my heart would have stopped.
Okay. Because your son had been arrested at that point, correct?
Parce que petit doigt était arrêté, petit doigt non point ça. Est-ce que ça correct?
Oui.
Yes.
Nothing further.
Thank you.
Okay.
Merci,
You may step down. Thank you.
Comme judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time for our minute break, so why don't you go ahead and take about a 15-minute break, unless you want a 20-minute, because I know you got to go downstairs. Let me give you 20 minutes. That way you'll have a little bit more time. So let's come back in 20 minutes, and while you're out, please don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't use your cell phones or any electronic devices to look up anything about the case. And I'll see you back in 20 minutes. Thank you very much. I also have the jury instructions. So let me give those to everybody along with copies of the verdict forms. Question I have here's two verdict forms for you. Yes. Susan, did you?
I can get it.
Here's the.
Yeah, I mean, if you have
It
it.
should do the same process.
We haven't even had a verdict. This is just this one.
Yeah.
Your Honor, are we in recess to use the restroom?
We are. But when you come back, let's do the jury instructions too.
Yes.
So we can take care of that.